GPS or the voice command, or is Louise a real person? We'll never really know when she's got a robotic voice, and she'll let me know if anybody has figured out which hyena that is. Oh, Crystal, thank you so much. I know we can always rely on you for giving us fantastic updates. So Crystal has said that was a hyena by the name of Ribbon. I haven't heard of Ribbon before, so I wonder where Ribbon comes. I'll have to do a bit of reading a little bit later. So what we're going to do now is we're going to say goodbye to this giraffe and its oxpeckers, and we're going to go back across into Jamie's vehicle. And I heard her say that she was possibly going to be moving off from the line, so let's go and see where she is now.
I have indeed moved off from the lines, but only temporarily so. And please just bear with me 1 second. Sorry, I'm just getting an update from Mike about what they're doing. His leopard tracks. Sorry about that. Sudden surprise. All right, let me just explain. The lions have moved into some very dense vegetation, and there's only really space for one vehicle, so I decided it'd be fine for Mike to just move in there and spend a little bit of time with him, and then once he's finished, then we will move in and spend a bit more time with them now. But I've been distracted because there are tracks for a female leopard before the rain. I can see one just up ahead over there. There we go. There we go. Interesting. Karula, I imagine. Presumably. Walking down Drakensberg Drive. Vivian, what did I say? When she disappears, you've got to come look along Drakensberg. Eastern side of the reserve. Let me just call this in. I know Aubrey's looking for leopards as well. Copy that, thanks Mike. I'll be making my way back in once you pull out. There's Nkonzo former Fuzzy Ingwe going south along Drakensberg, just past the Gwaripan junction. Oh, absolutely, Taylor. It's before the rain. Tricky to see exactly where they've gone. But last track was going south along Drakensberg. There we go. I know Taylor's also been particularly keen on following up on Karula and her royal babies. They're still here. Whoa! Things are making us work hard this morning. When we talk about the fact that we don't have any tracks and then all of a sudden we've got tracks everywhere, I've actually got a slight headache from concentrating so hard on where those lion tracks went. Might leave this. Ooh, this is where it gets tricky. Still there, going that way. So she's around. What we need on rainy days like today is for something like an impala or a troop of monkeys to spot our cats for us and alert us to their presence via alarm calls. That's what we really need. Or else we need Karula up in a tree. Still here. Just I feel like I'm going cross-eyed from squinting at the ground. I wonder where they're off to. But I promise we will go back to those lions, and I just thought that with that dense vegetation and with them being as skittish as they have been, it might be best to just limit it to one vehicle at a time. There wasn't really space for two. We would have had to do some serious maneuvering, especially with this drippy roof above us. I've lost them now. Oh. Still, been a relatively successful morning. Giraffe, lions, hyena, more rain, and Buffelshoek Dam is looking so full. It's amazing and very, very exciting. I'm sure that Brent is actually getting cabin fever at this point in the tent, hearing about all of these tracks, hearing about all of these sightings. Let's go and find out for him if he's managing to keep still.
Well, still in dry, you know, and still only 3 head bumps from the killer bees. I think it's 2 from Brent, 1 from Brian. I'm losing. But we're just going to finish off quickly on some of the other big, larger mammal species that we don't get here in the Great Kruger. There is a beautiful animal known as an oryx or a gemsbok. There we go. Isn't that beautiful? Another desert species, and one more desert species to show you. There we go. Oh, and everyone knows a meerkat. Now, Brian spent how long in the Kalahari?
A whole year.
A whole year Brian spent with meerkats in the Kalahari filming them. So there we go. I thought there's one that everyone will know. And last but definitely not least, one of my favorite antelopes. The roan antelope, very, very rare in the Great Kruger, but quite common in Zambia and parts of northern Botswana. So there we go. There's another 3 mammals. There are obviously quite a few more, but we're not going to go into too much depth. Now, let me just remember. Now, I do love roan. Now, roan are part of the equine antelope family, so they're obviously not horses, but their scientific name is Hippotragus equine, which is basically horse-like horse, which is always a funny one for me. Now, we did get another question from, I think it was Ollie Mama. Let me just double check. Yes, Ollie Mama, about the smaller creatures we get here, and probably the most common smaller creature, which we do see occasionally on the live safaris, and it's something that gets eaten by other smaller creatures. It is the bushveld gerbil. There we go. That's the bushveld gerbil. Now, we often find their burrows on bushwalk where they've been operating, but we don't see them too often. Now, the thing that eats the most bushveld gerbils probably is the genet. Aren't they beautiful? Now, I'm very chuffed to have a genet that has taken up residence at Inga's house where I live, because it is eating the evil squirrels that keep eating my snacks. Now, of course, squirrels, although they are small and cute, they can be very destructive, especially if they get into your ceilings. If you get into your ceiling, they can destroy quite a lot of stuff. Oh, there we go. And that's tailing them, tracking away. And so there we go. That was from Ollie Mama. Now, there's a couple of other different things we deal with, and quite an interesting question, something I haven't thought too much about, so I had to do a little bit of research, was from Courtney. And Courtney wanted to know, what mosquito-borne illnesses affect animals? It seems like most of the African wildlife being the most important term, are immune to the mosquito-borne diseases, but I did find out that oh yes, there we go. Which is quite interesting, because I know the filaria parasites from flies. So from horse flies can also carry it, but in this certain case, it's heartworm or dog or cat heartworm that affects domestic animals, and it is a little virus or a little worm that attacks liver, lungs, and heart of domestic dogs and cats, and sometimes horses. Also, mosquitoes can carry equine encephalitis that has actually been recorded in alligators in the States, and then West Nile virus has been recorded in alligators, horses, dogs, and cats. So there we go. So there's some interesting that I didn't know that I learned today with you, and that's the amazing thing about being on safari. And if we don't know something, it is always so exciting to come back and look it up. So much of the fun. Now, I've just been watching the weather, and it seems to come in waves at the moment, but I think we're in a good spot at the moment. As you can see, it's not raining. You know what? Brian, what do you think of Tom Brady?
He looks very festive.
Festive. I think it might be time for him to retire. What do you think?
Yeah.
Oh, dangerous. James isn't here. But let's have a look if any of James's caterpillars have survived on the Walfarius. Okay, let's have a look. Now, we've got to look, because sometimes they're quite small, and they are the larval stage of one of my favorite butterflies, the window acria, and they might, oh yes, as I said, they're probably going to be on the underside of the leaf. in the rain. Look at that. That one's getting ready to pupate, I think. Oh, James has done very well here. Maybe we should leave Tom Brady protecting the window acria larval butterflies. So all the acria butterflies, my favorite butterflies, the body color can be different, but they have those very distinct black spikes coming off them. Oh, there's actually quite a few that have survived. Ha! Well done, Jamesy. So maybe Tom Brady will survive another week till these guys pupate. So while Brian and I kneel in the wet grass, let's go see what Taylor's up to.
We're driving around on Central at the moment. We've actually picked up on leopard tracks, which Jamie called in a bit further north from where we are, sort of at Quarry Pan, Drakensberg Junction. And then we picked up some more. I have a suspicion that it's most likely Karula's tracks. I think she's already crossed south though, to be honest, especially that those cub tracks go back south. And there was so much commotion going on over there. They were slipping and sliding. Shungile and Hasana were obviously playing with each other and pushing each other about on the slippery mud, and I'm sure Karula's tracks were lost in between there somewhere. She moves quickly, though she likes these blocks between sort of Central, Mamba, Drakensberg, Leadwood. She often catches little prey. There's lots of steenbok around here, common dacre, and then of course no shortage of impala ever in the Sabi Sand. They are everywhere. So we just come to check around here. I'm hoping to find some elephants, though I have absolutely no idea where to search for elephants, because I did actually see a bull very quickly this morning. He crossed over and went into Little Gowrie before I could even show you. He was on a mission somewhere, probably tailing after a breeding herd. Hang on, here we go. Do we have fresh dung? Is this fresh? Not bad. Maybe from, still very nice and sort of that bright green color, but maybe it's from yesterday. Let's actually look here where it's nice and slippery, or maybe earlier this morning. Yeah, a little bit of rain over the tracks, but we came here yesterday afternoon, and this sort of mess that we have at the moment with the elephants sliding about wasn't here, so they could be around. We'll just check nicely up and down here. The only problem is we can't go up Hyena Road or Nyala Road north, or down Nyala Road south, just because those are weather roads and not the greatest soil. So I think let's go into the Mulwati for a little bit. Yeah. Sorry, Louise, I didn't quite copy my piece. Oh.
Oh, sorry about that. It seems as though Taylor's going through a bit of a tricky signal patch, and we do apologize, but you can imagine the technological feats involved with bringing you a live safari from not quite the middle of nowhere, but somewhere close in that sort of general vicinity. I hear that Taylor's been looking at elephant tracks. I'm also looking at elephant tracks, and I'm not too far away from where Taylor is now, so it's probably the same herd of elephants. So I just thought I'd give her a quick hand in searching for Karula. I suspect she is correct about the fact that she thinks that Karula might have gone south. But as Liam pointed out, she might also just have come back to collect the cubs from around Twin Dams and take them back to a kill. So it seems as though Taylor and I have had the same thought. Checking out the sandy Mulwati might be the easiest way of finding tracks. Now, that's what our plan is for now, but it seems as though Mike's going to be leaving those lions shortly, so we'll make our way back in that direction straight after this. I'm hoping to see some more tortoises as well. I always enjoy watching tortoises. There's something innately entertaining about them. We've got the Jennet staying at Inger's. We've also got a tortoise called Gregory, who lives at the DRC, which is the main camp. Gregory has got to the point now where she also seems as though she wants to bite people's toes. Distinct caution is needed when approaching her. If you don't immediately respond to her, she'll go up and nip you on the toe. And they bite hard. And it's not quite snapping turtle, but it's, I wouldn't want to get bitten by her. She's very demanding. She seems to like Tristan's room the best. Yeah, she definitely seems to like Tristan's room the best. I don't know if it's just because it's the one closest to the gate where she comes in every morning. I can also tell you that it looks as though, and you know what I'm like with weather predictions, so you can assume the opposite. It looks as though this weather's breaking up a little bit. The rain has abated for now, and I don't think it's going to come back for the duration of this sunrise safari. I think we might even potentially see a little bit of sun. What a lovely thought that is. Starting to forget what sun looks like, and I'm also running out of dry clothes. Dry or clean clothes. This is one of Karula's favorite pans to stop and have a drink at. Let's just see if there's anything hanging out here. This is also a pan where we've been surprised on a relatively regular basis by a hippopotamus. It's actually quite deep. It's surprisingly deep. And there's nothing like walking through here and suddenly realizing there's a hippo in a very, very small, very limited waterhole. I was hoping we might find a hyena or two having a wallow, but I guess it's not quite warm enough for that. Alright. My next port of call would have been to check Nyala Road South, but I think it's going to be a little bit soggy to drive on there. It's only Nyala Road North that gets closed, but Nyala Road South does get very, very... It's just next to a large creek, essentially, a dried up creek or a drainage line, and we want to be cautious of wrecking that road. I'm going to try and decide which way we're going to go from here. And while I do, it seems as though Taylor has beaten off those gremlins hand and foot. I wouldn't want to mess with Taylor either. And she's found signal again. Let's head over to her.
Not that scary. I do like a good gremlin fight though. It's my favorite, particularly a sword fight. If I had to choose a weapon of choice. We're driving now. We exited out of the Mulwati, and that breeding herd of elephant tracks, I don't know where they've gone, but that's okay. I think they've jumped onto a couple of roads that we can't head onto. But I'm now trailing the tracks of an elephant bull, and I wonder if it isn't the elephant bull that Jamie had earlier. I don't know where she had it, but it's going along Pangolin track, going back towards Weaver's Nest. So we're just going to have a check here, and then I'm actually going to head towards Treehouse Dam and have a scratch around there and see if there is anything maybe around here. The problem is that there could be 100 elephants standing in the middle of some of these blocks, and because we don't have roads everywhere, the distance between some of the roads and the amount of vegetation can be huge. So they could all just be, moving. They could just be cutting through the block, taking their shortcuts, not using our roads all the time, and then you never know. And that's why sometimes we do loops and loops and loops and drive the same road countless times, is because exactly of that reason, is that it might take you 5 goes, but on the 6th go you'll come right and you'll find that herd of elephants that was hiding away from you. Okay, let's go down this way again. We've already been down here. I'm sorry, I'm having a little bit of oh, hang on. No, don't run away, squirrel. Don't want to run. Don't. I'm going to see if I can turn it, but I expect it's going to run away. Don't run away. Oh, it ran away. It was a squirrel. It was sitting on that knob thorn over there, and it had a marula nut in its mouth. And I was hoping that it was going to be distracted by the nut in its mouth and then just sit there quietly and feed upon it. That would have been so nice. Maybe we should do that. Should we try and get a good squirrel sighting today? It's difficult because we've got the roofs, so if we can get it right, it would be an exceptionally good challenge that we'll hopefully complete. The squirrel challenge. Yes, should we challenge Jamie to a squirrel challenge? Actually, you know who might have a good shot is Brent. With all those dead trees that are around at the moment, he might get some of them coming out of the holes. There's quite a few of those dead trees around the tent, so Brent actually might be luckier. And he can also sneak up to them. There's no sneaking when you've got a big roof on like this and a big noisy vehicle. But we'll try. We'll see if we can get a squirrel sighting. We haven't had one, or I haven't sat and been able to get a squirrel to agree and sit with me. And as we could watch them, they're always jumping about and running away. If we're lucky enough to spot one from a distance, that will help a lot, because then when they don't think that they've been spotted, then they sit there and then carry on with their day. That's why walking is so much fun, is because you can catch the animals and they think that there's nothing around, so they go about doing their own thing. I always wonder if the animals alter their behavior when we're sitting with them in the vehicle sometimes, not in a bad way, but as if to sort of be like, oh yes, now I'm not going to show you that I actually do this, I'm going to pretend and I'm going to do something else. Okay, well, we've got elephant tracks here. I think it's this bull though, because they look like they're on top of the rain now, and I've only managed to pick up one track. Ah, there we go. Heather Lily, what a beautiful name. And you were wondering, what are us as guides and the cameraman taught by the animals and the insects? They teach us many different things, actually. Well, obviously, when we're sitting with the big mammals, we learn about the animal behavior. We learn, and they teach us when they are happy with us, when they are not so happy with us, and when we must move away. The insects are a hard one. Insect behavior is unbelievable, and I think we as guides, unfortunately, unless you've been doing this for a long time, have taken a keen interest in learning about insects. It's not something that when you're doing your qualifications is that you learn about is insect behavior. A couple of things you learn about: termites and ants, and the way butterflies and things fly, but there's no going in depth about it. So you have to take it upon yourself to do further studies about that. And there's actually a book, and I was telling you all the other day, I'm going to get it, and I can't wait to get it. It's called Insects and Interactions Within Their Environment. I suspect that it's an entomology book, like maybe a first year or second year entomology book, but I shall get it in the next few months, and it would be really nice to have a look at that. So you can learn so much from these animals, different things. But did you think of one thing? I'm just trying to think. They just tell us when they're not happy with us, or when they are happy with us. We've just come to Treehouse Dam and there isn't anything here. I'm very sad. Have a look. Very quiet. I can just see a couple of terrapins sort of moving around over there. You can see their heads popping up every now and then. There we go. Just down to the right. There they all are. Look at all those little heads. Going about their day, looking for things to eat. Little gathering. I don't know, maybe there's a swimming contest going on, synchronized terrapin diving, possibly. But nobody is sunbathing today, that's for sure. It's a little bit chilly, so they've all decided to just stay in the water. I think if I was a terrapin, I'd be sitting on a hippopotamus's back. But there's no hippos here, are there? Which is a pity. It would be nice to have a hippo here. With all the water around at the moment, there's so many places that these hippos can go, and there's so many hidden spots as well. Especially if some of these drainage systems have maybe filled up with a bit of water. I always used to see first thing in the morning in the big river systems, when there was any water, sitting on the sand, sleeping, fast asleep. But they were here. Okay, let me see if I can show you this track. I don't know if I'm going to be able to. Right, now we need to just make sure that the vehicle doesn't roll away. Okay, I think that should hold. There's actually a hippopotamus track right here. And you can see the toes over there. It doesn't look like a particularly big one. Maybe it was a female, because if it was a big male, normally I can stand with both my feet in the track. This one's a little bit too small. I wonder if we can see if maybe she had a calf with her. You got to look very carefully. But this has happened sort of in between, I think, the downpours of rain that we've had. Here's the other track. So normally, and going straight that way, which is straight towards the Chitwa Dam. So normally what they do is they come out of the dam, they come through here, they obviously come and graze. There is some really nice grazing spots. So I don't think that the plains in front of or behind the Chitwa Dam are too bad anyway. So they don't need to walk as far as what they do in the winter months, but they still come around. And it just amazes me how quick they move and start moving before we've even started our morning. Right. And sadly, no more leopard tracks either. I think Karula has definitely crossed, but we'll just check this road down here. Actually, no, we're going to check Shabamo. Changed my mind. I don't know. Now we're also looking for squirrels. Don't forget that. Hopefully we'll come across either an elephant, a squirrel, or maybe a hippopotamus. Surely if we've got 3 animals that we're searching for, we'll come across one of them. And well, speaking of the squirrel challenge, Jared was wondering, do you want to hear something ridiculous? This might inspire some of you. Jared, I'll get back to your question now. Louise has just said a squirrel riding a hippo, which is riding an elephant. I mean, talk about crazy imagination. That's just ridiculous. With a chariot. No, I'm joking. So, anyways, Jared, you were wondering if it's the same species of squirrel that we see here that you get back in the States. Unfortunately not. These are tree squirrels that we have here and we are seeing. I'm not sure what types of squirrels that you get back in the States. Red squirrels, or am I making that up? Do you know, Craig? We put Craig on the spot today. We'll ask him lots of questions. He's very excited about that. And hang on, who's been walking here? Before I get into notes, our friends the hyenas, you can actually see. Thank you, Brent. Brent has kindly let me know that the most common squirrel in the States is a gray squirrel, but I believe you get many, many different kinds. I'm not going to jump out now. I just want to show you. You can very easily see just on the side of the road, there are lots and lots of footprints. That's just from the hyenas going up and down here. We need to just figure out where they are resting. So that's all of their tracks. But you can see how hard it is to see now. So that's what I'm looking at. Those tracks have had rain fall on top of them, so they're not very clear. You can see that. So that's why it makes it so difficult to track. So that's what we're looking at as we're driving along. On the days when there's no rain, then you can see it's so much clearer and you can spot those tracks almost instantly. But we're going to keep searching for either a squirrel, an elephant, or a hippopotamus, or all 3 interacting together. But let's go across to Miss Patterson, and I think she said she was slowly making her way back to those lions. I wonder if she is there, and say hello to Flip Flop for me.
I'm not there just yet, but don't worry, Taylor. I will definitely pass on your greetings. It seems as though Taylor's in quite a positive mood this morning, with her squirrel challenge and all. Not, of course, that she's ever not in a bouncy mood. She's full of the joys. Our Taylor's challenged us to find the best squirrel sighting. Is it the best one or the first one? That's what I want to know. Is it the first squirrel of the morning, or is it the best squirrel sighting in the morning? That is what we need to clarify, because that changes things. I'm not quite sure what qualifies as the best squirrel sighting. Perhaps a squirrel doing something very entertaining. I must tell you, I spoke about Gregory earlier, and the fact that Gregory the tortoise, the female tortoise, likes to chew on toes. I'm going the wrong way. I'm not. Let's go this way. We've been that way already. You know, the other terrifying animal that becomes very habituated to people very quickly is a ground squirrel. Ground squirrels, I don't know, maybe it was just the ones where I worked in the Kalahari, but those ground squirrels used to take chunks out of people's toes. Morning, little boy. Hello, little kudu. You're looking a bit soggy. You can see now, for our new viewers, where Brent got his kudu game from, cupping behind his ears. They've got those massive dish-shaped ears for picking up even the smallest, slightest of sounds. Generally, you'll find, when you look at one kudu, there are many others around it. I'm sure that he's still a little bit young to be off on his own. I'm sure he's with another group of kudu somewhere here, or herd of kudu. Liesel, you want to know how do you determine the age of a kudu? Liesel, with very little variation, obviously there's going to be a slight variation in different areas because the food quality is different, the amount of nutrition they're getting is different, but with very little variation between areas, you can actually have a look at the way in which kudu's horns twirl. To a point. You can start to guess after that, but the first few years of their lives are relatively easy. So they start growing their horns at around about 3 or so months, much like our baby impala, and by about a year they're at this sort of stage. So they've just done that first twirl, and from there it sort of progresses in quite an even way per year until round about 4 o'clock? 4 years old. Not 4 o'clock. 4 years old. Slightly different time frame. At which point you start to see them bulk out, but their horns have sort of reached about 2.5 twirls. Now, I know that Brent might have a bit more to say about aging of kudu by horns. I don't claim to be an expert by any stretch of the imagination, but I know that the growth is sort of roughly even and then starts to slow down around 4 years old. What have you seen, mister? Something's attracted his attention. I don't think it's a predator, but it could be a bird or a snake or something. Look at the way he's staring down to the left there. Oh, okay. He's dismissed it. So they will start to bulk up, and they sort of really reach their peak around 5-6 years old, maybe even a little bit older in certain areas. But then it gets quite difficult. Then at that point, to age them, you're going to have to sort of look at the condition, the size of their dewlap, the size of their necks. Sure, that was a very loud chirp, Woodland's kingfisher. Chip, chirr. Such a happy sound. Are you happy the rain's done for now? Are you tired of being soggy? All of you, kudu and wood, what are they called again? Kingfisher alike. Chip, chirr. Unfortunately, I think our roof's going to get in the way. I don't think we're going to be able to. It's on the edge of. Yep, it's going to get in the way. Blast. Alright, let's just double check and see whether or not there are any more kudu around here. And then I'm going to make my way back towards those lions, just because it's still cool enough for them to be moving. And I don't want them to disappear. Just check something quickly. No. Hello, there we go, there's our ladies. Now Heather Lily, while we watch the rest of our kudu, you wanted to know, and I know that, I'm not sure what Taylor answered to this question, but you wanted to know what are the sorts of things that we as guides and our camera operators have learned from watching the animals and the various insects over the past, or however long we've been living in the bush. Viam, you had the best answer.
Yeah.
Now, VM says that it's not necessarily about size or strength, it's about having the best poker face. So, for example, if you're sizing up another antelope, if you're a male antelope or another giraffe, or another male leopard, for example, perhaps you're Tingana and Anderson, half of the time you can actually not fake your way out, but threaten your way out of actually coming into physical conflict. So that was VM's answer. My answer would be that if you wear aposmetic colors like black, white, red, and yellow all at the same time, you're liable to send people running. What other answers do I have? I've learned a lot about reading body language because you become automatically observant with people as well as animals, and that there's a lot being said behind the scenes that you don't necessarily see or don't necessarily hear verbally, but you can read if you are watching. I've learned to pay attention to every single sound around me, but that's actually that can be quite problematic because when you go into a city you find yourself overwhelmed by the amount of noise around you. I still struggle with a loud television, let alone driving into a city with ambulances and police cars and all sorts of things. And I suppose we could go into the... Oh, I tell you what, I've learned from the lions that table manners don't actually matter. And that it should be all for one and one for all. No, the other way around. Everyone for themselves.
Especially around our table.
Especially around our table, yes. You must definitely apply those standards of table manners. Yes, I don't know whether it was the lions that taught me that or the crew at DRC, as there is a rapid fight over food each and every single meal. I suppose we could go into the value of family friendships. I'm not sure about friendships with animals. Let's not go too down the road of a Hallmark card. The value of family, I suppose, with the elephants and the lions, and from the lions, that often ladies mean trouble when it comes to male friendships. Given that the only time we see the Birmingham boys scrapping with each other is over a female. What else have we learnt? I know, we've got so many life lessons. We should write a book, Viam. We should definitely write a book. From the elephants, I've learned don't drink yucky water. Rather dig for the fresh water. There's so many lessons. Lou says don't sleep with your door open. That is a valuable lesson. I'm not sure I learnt that from the animals, though. More a concern or fear of attack from animals, particularly with hyenas. Don't leave one thing I've learned from insects, they like light. Don't leave your lights on and your windows and your doors open all evening, or you're going to find yourself swamped. What else? Yes, valid point from Lou. Vitamin E and selenium are very important in one's diet. Oh, it was from Rebecca. I apologize. From Rebecca. Do not underestimate the value of vitamin E in one's diet and selenium in order to maintain a healthy state, because of course that was what happened to our poor Nkuhumas. It pays to work hard, is what Karula's taught all of us, because that leopard does not sit still for all that long, all that frequently, constantly moving, constantly busy.
Did you stuff yourself?
Yes, that's brilliant. Via's got another brilliant one. When in doubt, stuff yourself, because you don't know when your next meal's coming from. We, of course, are joking, but we're fortunate enough to always know where our next meal is coming from, but there are people that don't. But Viam's absolutely right. Eat as much as possible. The lions and the leopards and the hyenas have all taught us that. What else? There's so many. When in doubt, distraction helps to avoid trouble, like flash coloration. If you find yourself in trouble, just do some jazz hands and then dash away. And see if that leaves the person feeling a bit nonplussed. Sorry, I was just thinking of a funny story on that note. With Taylor, myself, and Brent, we were playing a game with the marula fruits that have all landed in camp, which involved throwing them at the dustbin, the sort of the blue plastic dustbin outside of the camp. And one or two shots happened to slightly damage said plastic dustbin, and shatter would probably be the appropriate word, not slightly damage, shatter.
It used to be my favorite dustbin.
Was it your favorite dustbin,
I
Viam?
use it all the time.
Oh, I'm sorry, Viam. I know, I also keep going to use it and then realizing it's not there. We'll have to bring one up from the car park. Anyway, as the exact moment of shattering occurred, Steph walked through the passageway, as it happened, and both Taylor and myself immediately sauntered off to pretend we were making tea and left poor Brent to ride out the full consequences of that particular game. It was a fun game while it lasted. Better than throwing it at a person, I suppose, or a window. From kudu, I have learned the value of listening and not making much in the way of a sound, which unfortunately is impossible in this line of work. I try every now and again. I think we should go and get some life lessons from learned from animals from Brent in the tent with his marulas.
And straight through both sides. I was practicing my cricket arm. For one of these days, we're going to have a quarantine cricket match, just for a bit of fun. But yeah, so we've learned lots of life lessons from the animals out here. And I think for me, well, we'll get to the most important one at the end. But there's lots. And well, I think probably one of the most important things is not to humanize animals. Of course, must realize that they work on a completely different plane to us. The conscious plane of the human being is something that is debatably only relevant to human beings. And a male lion will eat his own cubs, so will a lioness if she's injured. So you've got to realize that they're out there to survive. So survival is the most important thing for them. And with human beings, we've managed to get to a place where we can normally survive, but we need to sort of take care of stuff around us, which, of course, animals take care of number one first. But I'd say the most important thing, patience. Patience.
Patient long pants.
Patient long pants, or patient short pants, or patient flip-flops, or patient hat. But yes, patience is definitely the most important thing for me, especially when it comes to finding the great sightings, but also with people in camp, because we all live on top of each other, and sometimes tempers can get a little bit frayed, but patience is the most important thing for me. There we go. That's my pearl of wisdom from the African wild. And I think Brian agrees with me that patience is the one. Yeah, so that is always a wonderful thing. Now, of course, patience when it comes to finding Karuna, who is proving to be as difficult as always. I just didn't want to tell the ladies that, if I was out there, you never know. We might have found the leopards already. Anyway, we're not going to cause too much trouble down that road, especially since, actually no, I think we should cause more trouble down that route, since Taylor and Jamie let me take all the blame for destroying a dustbin. So, Brian, do you think if the killer bees were there, we would have found Karuna already? Probably, yes. So, ladies, if you want some tips on how to find leopards, come to the killer bees. There we go. Remember, hashtag Safari Live or questions at Wild Earth if you do have any questions for us. Now, I've been coming to look at the weather, and there's a bit more rain coming in. So, quick, Brian, before we get wet, even slightly damp, let us go back to our tent. And so of course, there's some very exciting stuff happening later in the year, and I decided to come have a little look here. Now, I'm not sure. So this is the Mare Triangle, and you can see how different the terrain is from where we are. Now, I will show you a picture of what it looks like in the Sabi Sands. So you see these massive open grasslands and only the thickets around the rivers and little river systems. Now, I'm really excited to see what leopards live in these areas, because I think there are going to be lots of leopards. And also, generally, when you have an area like this, which is a high animal density area, because you're going to have impala and other antelope that are not going to leave these forested areas, then I think there's going to be a very high leopard population. How exciting will it be to meet some new leopards in the Mare? Now, let me just go out wider. So there we go, you can see it's massive open areas, very little wooded areas. But if we go like this and we go Sabi Sands, Sabi Sand actually, and it's going to fly us all the way to South Africa. Let's close that. Let's see, maybe it's in the wrong place, right place. There it is. Okay, so if we just take a random spot on the Sabi Sands, look at that. You see how massively different the ecosystem is. Actually, I think I know where that. I actually do know where that is. It's where my brother works. We're up here. Oh, keep going. and we should be right there. There we go. And there we go. You can see, particularly, you don't have those big open patches of grassland, so much thicker. Fascinating stuff, is it not? Now, I have got something under the microscope. I've actually got two pieces of it, because I went for a little wonder just now. Now, that is a leaf that has been eaten by a butterfly, or larvae at least, and it is very rough. It's actually quite... If I kept doing this, I would actually take my skin off. It is the leaf of a sandpaper raisin. Now, if we go to the microscope... I think we need some more light in there. Now, look at that. Look at that, how rough that leaf is. Now, that is, of course, a defensive mechanism that it helps things like kudu and impala not eat them, so they only eat the young leaves, and once the leaves are adults, that rough with those very little fibers coming out, you can just see, will keep them from being eaten. Of course, no problem if you're a caterpillar. You will munch through that with gay abandon. There we go. Isn't that very interesting? Now, I've seen in parts of Zambia where sandpaper isn't readily available. I've seen different tribesmen. Oh, let's find it. Let's do a little test. I've seen guys use it on. There we go. Or maybe we should do it on James's. So I've seen guys use it on wood before. So I mean, it is rough enough, and as it's called, a sandpaper resin. So if you get enough leaves, can you see that there, Brian, where it's coming off? Or should I do it? Maybe this wet stick will show it a bit better. You can. Let's try on the wet stick quickly. So if we take the sandpaper resin, now I think the stick's too wet, but you can see how it comes off. Obviously, you need a lot of leaves, but I have seen them in Zambia use it on carvings. It gives a very nice fine sand. Maybe I should do this to my walking stick. See, look at that. Look how smooth it's becoming already. Maybe I should get some more sandpaper resin. Let's just do some more here. Look at that. Amazing. So that's how rough it is. Now imagine even an animal like a kudu or a giraffe, it's got a very tough mouth. If you had to eat too much of this, it would be quite unpleasant. I'm not going to try eat this because I know it's going to be unpleasant. And we can show you the bush itself. Okay, well, I'll go get some more leaves, but while I do that, let's go see what Taylor's up to.
The way that it builds up, and then I erupt with a big sneeze. No, it's gone away. Okay, well, that's good. I'm not a huge fan of sneezing, and some people think I'm strange, but when you sneeze 10 times in a row, for most every time you sneeze, it gets a bit old very quickly. But we're just having a quick look around here, and I've also been thinking about Heather Lily's question again and wondering what the animals have taught me, because VM has just got such a way with words, doesn't he? He comes up with the most hysterical things. So I'm just trying to think. I think that two very important things that the animals have taught me is that when nature calls, well, it calls, and also that it's okay to take midday naps. It's acceptable. Now I've just stopped over here. I'm actually not even going to get out. I'm going to break a whole lot of these zinnias. Now I'm not sad that I'm pulling these flowers apart because they should not be here. They are an invasive species. They were brought over many years ago as an ornamental flower from South America. Let me see. Come here. Well, not from South America, from Mexico. I lie. I'm speaking nonsense. Just trying to find good ones, and you'll see what I'm going to do in a moment. I have to get out. All my socks are going to get wet. Right, let's take this one and this one. Now, you might think I'm ridiculous, but it's hard what I'm about to try and make for you. Let's try. Let me get back in though. Let me plug myself in very quickly. You stay there. Let's see if it's working. Yes? Are you ready? Oh no, we need to find a thorn. Okay, we've got to move. We've got to do it 2 parts here. We'll put those flowers down there. I'm going to try and make a whistle. Oh, look, come undone. Of some sort. whether it's going to work, I'm not sure. I was taught it, and then the first one that I made worked 100%, and apparently that's quite rare to be able to make one of these whistles the first time, because I've heard that it takes about like 100 goes before you eventually get it right. Now I'm looking for an acacia with a nice thorn on it. I don't have my multi-tool with me, so I've got nothing to sort of make a very fine hole, so we shall search for an acacia on the road, or anything with her. Yes, here we go. Right, we'll just stop here quickly. I'm going to break a thorn. I'll be back in 2 seconds. You can just enjoy the scenery for a moment. You won't see me. I'm going just here. Bye-bye. Right, let me quickly grab one. Oh, that was easy. Normally they're a nightmare to try and pull off. Okay, let's get settled. Okay. Is this going to work? I don't know if it's going to work because I don't have my... Okay, so what you do is you break it off like that. Now you've got to make a little incision. I don't know if it's going to work. Like I said, it takes a while. Now I'm putting it to my mouth now. Nope, that one's not working. We'll try another one. Like I said, it's not easy. It seems really silly, but I think my parents were glad that this trick wasn't shown to me when I was a young girl, because I would have made one big noise. But it makes the most... Oh no, come back, I lost it. Try again. It's hard. I'm going to have to keep practicing. Nope, no, that one doesn't work either. You don't mind me while I try and make my whistle. What I should have done is done a whole lot and then actually made one that works. But I think that takes the fun out of it. Come on now. You got to make just a little incision. Nope. That one's not working. I'm out of luck. Right. It's a difficult one. I'm going to have to keep trying. I'm going to have to pick some more. I've got to pick a really, really good one. But hopefully by the end of the show, I'll eventually make one. But it seems as though Jamie's back with the Nkuhuma Pride. I'm sure that they're probably all cuddled up in this weather. But you're going to have to tell me.
I'll forget about taking an afternoon nap or something like that. If I've learned anything from these lions, it's that it's perfectly acceptable to sleep for 22 hours at a day. At a day? At a time. During the day. They're still wonderfully healthy and fit. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. There we go, up again. Still trying to find themselves a slightly less damp spot. Not really comfortable, is it, little ones? All cuddled together. Oh, look at the size of that cub. He's absolutely massive. It must be the oldest one. It's lovely to see them once again, even under such tricky circumstances. Unfortunately, it is very thick in here, and very difficult for us to actually get a good view of them. Hey, little ones? What did you eat last night? You definitely ate something, judging by those stomachs. It'd be wonderful if they did all survive, and we could see the massive increase in numbers that they will provide to the Nkuhuma Pride. Here we go. From the Nkuhuma lionesses, I've also learned that it's okay to play every now and again. Not to take life too seriously. I won't take any lessons from them about personal hygiene, though. I think those particular lessons I will reject. I still don't think it's socially acceptable, no matter what the lion behavior tells us, to urinate on your friend, or indeed anywhere near your friend or their head. So I think we'll take certain lessons and perhaps abandon others. Still having a bit of a scratch every now and again, still some patchy bits of skin, but all in all they look far better than they did when I last saw them properly. That mange is slowly but surely clearing up, and they look healthy and happy. going to be fascinating to watch these little cubs grow up. Oh, itchy elbow. Okay, everybody, now, except for this lazy lump. Veronica, we do know if the cubs are boys and girls. Originally we had a split of 3 boys to 5 girls. If I am correct in remembering, 2 of the males didn't make it. It was 2 males that succumbed to the white mussel disease. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, I'm sorry. It gets very hard to keep track of these lions when we haven't seen them for a long time, but I'm pretty sure it was 2 of the males that succumbed to white mussel disease, which means there's only 1 remaining male, and the rest of them are all females. So the other 5 females, the 5 females survived, 2 males did not. And perhaps there might actually be a link between the fact that the male cubs were the first to succumb to it and the growth rate, because they do grow just that little bit faster than females. So it's tricky to tell initially. You're absolutely correct. It is a bit tricky to tell unless you are really closely examining them, because of course, like all young animals, before they reach sexual maturity or before they reach puberty, they actually haven't, their testicles haven't descended. So it's hard to see exactly. I'm pretty sure that this little one in front of us, that's about, no, he's not about to get up. One's eating leaves. I think this is the male. I think this is the last remaining male. And I know, actually, I do owe apologies, because I think the last time I spoke about this and the remaining mix of, and it was a long time ago, the remaining mix of males and females, I said that it was the 2 youngest ones that had died. And I got a correction on that, saying that it was in fact 1 older one and 1 younger one that didn't make it. I'm not sure. That was the correction that I got, and it was very much appreciated. Look at its scrappy ears. And I think that we do have just 1 male remaining, and I think this is it. I'm trying to stare under his tail, which seems to be a little bit rude, but it's worth it. I think, no, that looks like a boy to me. Yeah, definitely a boy. And it's only in the next few months that we'll start to see the hair fluffiness developing around the tops of their heads. So let's just have a look quickly. Maybe I'm mistaken. That looks like a boy to me. A growing boy, but a little boy. Okay, now what? He's about to disappear, and that's going to make our life slightly more difficult, particularly with this roof. I might have to just do a quick loop around them to double check and see if there isn't a better place for us to view them. And don't forget, just while we're sitting here, and for those of you that have just joined us, send through your questions using the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or email through to questions@WildEarth.tv. Let's see if we can slide forward. It looks like it might get a bit more open up ahead. Watch heads and legs. Luckily that's not thorny. Okay, this is a bit tricky. You can't blame them though. They're trying to search for a nice sheltered spot underneath the leaves. Brent, of course, doesn't have to go too far to search for a sheltered spot because he's got a sheltered tent.
Yes, we don't have to go far for shelter at all. Now, I've been busy I've destroyed some more leaves, but look at that. So that's just from using some of these leaves here as sandpaper. Now, as I said, I've seen it before in rural Zambia, where different spoons and carvings have been completely sanded down with the use of sandpaper resin and other sandpaper bushes. There are quite a few that have that very distinct sort of roughness to them. Now, oh no, number 4. Darn it. Okay, so someone was asking about Simon, and unfortunately for Simon, He can't talk anymore because he's blind. He can keep his hat, but we're going to keep Simon quiet. We've removed his eyes. James can put his eyes back if he wants, but yeah, Simon will stay quiet while I am in the tent. Okay, so I actually wanted to check something. Yes, there it is. Oh, hello, giraffe. I wanted to see if the bees... Oh, it is open again. Now, James is much better at this than I am, because I tend to have not the most stable of hands. Let's have a look if I can do this. Oh, maybe let's just put the giraffe skull in a good spot before I attempt to maneuver it around rather than balancing it on my... No, I saw James, he uses the horns as a thing to keep his hand stable. And I put that black around there so it'd be easier, there we go, for us to find it. Now, oh, obviously not for Brent. This is a James. Okay, let me try. Oh, it's much easier when I get something right under the microscope. I'm just going to move everything here quickly, so I don't... There we go. I can use the horns as a rest for my hand. Okay, we've got it in focus. Now we're just going to... No. Which way am I going, Brian? I don't know where we are. Oh, I think that's it. But no, panic! Okay, let's try from this angle. Okay, wait. There we go. It's definitely... Oh, I don't want to move because it's in the corner. But there we go, it's open again, but I can't see... James, I take my hat off to you because this is bad work and difficult. So no sign of the bees at the moment, but they have opened it up and they have extended the tube again. So I think they're probably waiting for a bit of warm weather. I think let's go away from this microscope now. Yes, no, that's much more sensible. Okay, let's put the giraffe outside for a little bit. I think the bees might enjoy going out today. Oh, but I have... The less common of the Commelina flowers, the yellow Commelina, are very pretty. Do you know its scientific name?
No.
Commelina flava.
Oh, wonderful.
Yellow flava. This, however, cannot run away from me under a microscope. So, excitement. Well, I don't have to, I can use the stand without having to free hold. Okay, now I've got to remember, where's that? What have I done? There we go. Now we can... So there we go. Let's just get the focus point right. So, I just want to see, you see... Wait, let's just move it that way slightly. There we go, that's what I want to show you. Now, that is the smallest petal of the Commelina flower. That little one there. That thing I'm touching, you see there's another creature coming in. That is the smallest petal of the Commelina flower. Now, Commelina flowers, because you can see they're very open. Some flowers are very closed and very specific for certain types of insects. Now, a Commelina is what we'd call a generalist, so it's very open. It gives lots of different species. They don't need a modified proboscis or anything to get to the pollen and the nectar. So it's a very open flower, so it's bees, butterflies, and even lots of fly species, beetle species, so it's a really nice generalist. Now, I know a lot of you would have heard the Commelina story before about why it's called the Commelina. Now, the Commelina were three Swedish botanist brothers. I mean, they didn't do anything in half measure in the 1800s. If one of you was going to be a botanist, all of you were going to be a botanist. And they were from Sweden, and they made some rather major scientific discoveries. Now, I'm going to take the flower out from the microscope in a second. When I hear we are leaving the microscope. Leaving the microscope. There we go, leaving the microscope. Okay. So it's going to be much easier for me to show you why the three brothers. So, I've been digging in the sand and I've got dirty nails. I do apologize. So there we go. You got two very big petals, those two there. And those two brothers made major scientific discoveries. And the poor see-through, it doesn't really matter too much. He made no scientific discoveries and he died young. So a shame, the poor Commelina brothers. But we have three species of Commelina flower that occur here in the Sabi Sands. The yellow, the Commelina flava, and the blue Commelina. And then another type of blue Commelina, it's just got a smaller flower called the Bengal Commelina. So the Commelina bengalensis, Commelina erecta, and Commelina flava. Yes, I do like my flower. Oops, I dropped it. Now, as I said, the ladies might need some tips on how to track leopards. So, Taylor, I've got some advice for you as we go back to you. It is just to keep your eyes open.
Brent, you are just so full of wisdom, aren't you? So anyway, sadly my zinnia didn't work very well. And I'm wondering if it's not just because they're too young. There weren't any really big ones, and you've seen how beautiful some of those zinnia flowers can get. I went and actually stood out and I picked a whole lot. And when this guide was showing me how to make them, the part that I'm looking for was much longer. And I did have one in here that worked, but then it obviously dried up and it died. And the part that I'm looking for was probably about that long, if you look against my hand, whereas these ones, the pocket that's sort of, inside of the stem is hollow, is only about that much. And I just don't think it's enough, because you've got to make a big enough. They're all giving me nonsense now. Rebecca. Louise is sitting in there and she thinks she's safe and final control. That's fine, Louise. Hide behind your four walls where you're all cuddled up and you don't face any of the harsh conditions out here. I think we should make them, the final control ladies, do a game drive in the pouring rain with the thunder and lightning, like what we have to do. So this is the kind of things. I'm so hurt right now. Louise is telling me how she's got a nice warm blanket. They've got the heat on. She's got hot chocolate, room service, you name it. And then we have to get. I suppose we have it better though, because we get to see the animals. But it's funny because when Louise asks me to go and see the leopards, I'm going to be conveniently too busy. We're still looking for our squirrel. I have not seen a squirrel just yet, still looking, but I think we might be in luck now because the clouds have lifted quite a bit. We haven't really had much rain and it feels like it's getting a little bit warmer, though Craig would probably disagree with me. Craig is freezing. He's saying he needs a blanket, but I don't have a blanket for him. He's from the east coast of South Africa. Don't fly away, Drongo. I want to show you. I haven't looked at a Drongo for a long time. Please stay there. There's a beautiful Drongo just sitting on the edge of the tree. There were two, but the other one flew away. Oh, look at it. I think it's I wonder if it's is it a Drongo? Yes, it is. I think there was another one, and I think that they were juveniles, because they were both sitting here. Are you a juvenile? Or are you... You see, it's got a very much a fork in the tail. You can see the bit of the white feathers that are sticking out, and its eye is not quite completely red, but it's slowly going red. You can see that. So I suspect that this is a little juvenile, and I think the other one was two, and it's moved off. Like I said, we saw the juvenile magpie shrike yesterday morning, and we've been seeing a lot of young birds. I wonder if it's waiting for mom and dad to come by and help it feed. Though it should be getting to the point now where it'll be feeding all on its own. Look at that though, isn't that just so funny? How it's black and then the little white feathers sticking out of the side. Are they talking to me?
Yeah.
I can't hear. Louise, I'm sorry, I can't hear you. My comms have gone again. Can you try talk to me again? Yes. Oh my goodness! Quickly, we better go. Gotta go back to Brent. Gregory has made an appearance.
It is not Gregory. It's far too small to be Gregory, and I think it's a boy. I don't want to pick it up, but it's wandered into our space. It's actually about to crawl under Brian at the moment, so it's not a very timid tortoise. But yeah, tortoises are going to be highly mobile on a day like today. Now, one of the Speaks hinged tortoise, which this is, his favorite foods is fungi and mushrooms. So I can't see any mushrooms here, so I think there might have been an explosion of mushrooms after the rain. So I think that is one of the reasons, apart from the fact that they have access to water and all the bits of grass and leaves that are carrying lots of water at the moment. So yes, there we go. The tortoise is now under Brian, literally under Brian. I don't know why I decided to walk that way, of all the ways. What are you doing, tortoise? Maybe it's Gregory's suitor. Brian's going to try stand up without scaring the tortoise, but it crawled right underneath him. Hey, little guy. So we only have 2 tortoise species in this area, and this is the Speaks hinged tortoise. Named so from this hinge on its backside, so it's able to fold up the back to protect its tail and back legs, whereas it's able to tuck its head behind its front legs for protection in the front. Now, they do have predators. We've seen lions and hyenas and even leopards eat them, but more commonly they are eaten by ground hornbills. They are able to peck open that skull with their massive beaks. But the tortoises have been estivating over the drought, and now they are out in full force. Here we go. Brian, it likes you. It's coming back to you.
Hey, little tortoise.
Brian, did you take any mushrooms out of the kitchen this morning? Maybe it smells some mushrooms. Oh, I hope they're mushrooms for breakfast. And while the tortoise continues, it looks like it might be heading for the tent. You can hear some red-billed, or that's their old name, wood hoopers calling. I'm trying to see if I can spot them. Now called green wood hoopers. Not the greatest light for Brian to work with, but there goes the tortoise under or toward the Nyala skull. I think that could be Nigel, actually. Nigel the Nyala. Now, oh dear, they're calling all over the place. Let's have a look. There, in the middle of that dead knob thorn there. So here we go. They are quite far away, and we can't really wander too far from the tent. Our cable is not that long. And also this light is going to make it incredibly difficult for Brian. And of course now they have gone silent. What else can we hear? I can hear a Swanson spurfar in the distance. Crested Franklin as well. Birchall starling. Chirr. That's about it at the moment. It's gone very quiet all of a sudden. Where's the tortoise? Tortoise is moving off. So we're going to move back into our tent. Ooh, Kyle got me on the spot here. Which is how many tortoise species are there in the whole of South Africa? Now, Carl, let me just try to think offhand. So there's a bunch of endemic species to the Western Cape and to the Fynbos regions. So 15, but I'm going to have to double check. I'd say there's probably about 15. But a lot of those are very endemic to very small areas. So I think they're called strandlopers, which Afrikaans basically means beach walkers. Or padlopers, road walkers. Now, that's quite common because obviously a lot of tortoises are seen on the road, and if we find them on any of the main highways and stuff, I always stop and move them off the road. It is a very dangerous place for a tortoise when someone is doing 120 kilometers an hour. saw some movement behind me. I think it was a bird flying past. I just caught it out of the corner of my eye. But I will double check. I think there are at least 10 to 15 species in South Africa or Southern Africa. As soon as you leave those fynbos regions and some of the desert regions, you are down to your 2 speaks and leopard tortoise are the most common and occur through the biggest variety of habitats. Have those guys come closer? Or they're just making noise? There we go. Thank you, Father Contra. There are 12 species. So I said between 10 and 15. And some of those little patlopers are as adults as small as my hand. There they are. There they are. Oh, they're behind a bush. Let me cable bash for you. I'm cable bashing. Oh, they're everywhere. They're... See, through that arc, if you come one step to the right... Just, okay, through that little arc. You're on it.
Yeah.
There we go. Oh, and he flew. You still got him. I mean, ladies out there, we've found, I think, more animals around the tent in the last 5 minutes than you found the whole drive. Oh, Brian. We're going to have to start lessons again. Of course, I'm only joking. I think what have they found? Kudu, giraffe, lion. No leopard. No leopard. Oh, and an elephant, yes. I was really hoping that Eddie was going to come visit us. Jamie said he might, but obviously he's veered off in another direction. Pity. We haven't even had the nyala or the bushbuck around us. It seems like Taylor's squirrel challenge is in jeopardy from Jamie.
I see it. Well, Rain's busy mocking us, busy yammering on in the tent that our animals keep running away from us. There's our squirrel. He is over there. Ha ha! There you go, Taylor. I see your squirrel challenge and I raise you one very bouncy, very damp, very gone squirrel. Well done, VM. I couldn't even see where it went there. Okay, well, as squirrel sightings go, this is a particularly high quality one. Flashes of fur behind the branches, I'm sure, is exactly what Taylor was thinking about. Did we ever clarify if it was a good squirrel sighting or the first squirrel sighting? Because if it's the first squirrel sighting, well, we've won. If it's a good squirrel sighting, Taylor could still beat us, I suppose. Right. To Taylor, find out if she's up to the challenge.
Well, I don't have a quality squirrel sighting, that's for sure. I do have a quality millipede sighting. Can you see it over there, Craig, in that little shrub? Over there. There, somewhere in there. You have to zoom. There it is. You can see the little black thing starting to pop up in the middle of your screen. That is a millipede. I don't think it's Mildred. I think it's somebody else. Mildred I took very, very far from home. So I think that she's probably still trying to find her way back. They don't move very fast, and I was actually a little bit worried about taking Mildred back to camp. I kind of feel a little bit bad now, and that is because Gregory eats Mildred's little millipedes. It's one of their favorite things to feast upon, so I hope that it managed to get away before Gregory got hold of it, because that would be terrible. I'd be devastated. I would have murdered Mildred. Oh my goodness. I'm very saddened by this, but I think I have hope though. She survived many elephant sightings, and she survived on my hatch. She just went round and round, so I think she would have got away. I think she had it in her to fight Gregory, and I think Gregory has now also got the taste for other things. It's very funny when Gregory comes in and eats all of the marulas in camp, and I don't know, but I know it's Louise's favorite thing is watching Gregory try and eat a marula, especially when she just keeps pushing the marula forward, and well, she's not really eating it, and sometimes we have to help her. We open the marula for her and then she eats the whole thing. It's very funny. We're obviously very kind to our dear friend Gregory, and I'm sad I haven't seen a squirrel. I don't know where our squirrel is, Craig. I think we have to start checking the termite mounds again to see if there's any squirrels warming up their bottoms. I'll never forget that sighting that David and I had. Whether it was doing it, probably not, but it just looked like it, the way that it had its rear end right on the top, right on the entrance of a chamber into a termite mound, and I can just imagine all that warm air blasting its tail and probably warming up its fur underneath its body. No, come on, we need a squirrel, surely. There's always squirrels here in these marulas and on these silver cluster leaf trees. But typical, when I'm looking for them, they're just nowhere to be found. I did also say to Craig, though, if I was an animal, if I was a squirrel, I wouldn't have come out today. I'd still be in bed. I'd definitely not be taking on the world. We just need one. Just one squirrel. Let's look. We're going to keep scanning the trees. So I apologize if I don't look back to the camera too often. Now, Megan, you're wondering if sorry, if I don't die, if we get elephant shrews. We do indeed, but I haven't seen an elephant shrew since I've been here. I used to see lots of elephant shrews up in Zambia. They were always around the lodge, running along the different pathways. They are amazing things. Now, if you don't know what we're talking about, it's like, I suppose you could describe it as a gerbil, so sort of the way that the legs and the arms are positioned on a gerbil, but then with big eyes and a long snout. They are the cutest things in the entire world. I love them, and I wish we got to see them more often. We actually found we rescued one that was in a swimming pool when I was guiding down in the southern sands, and I'm trying to remember what it was. I don't know, it wasn't an elephant shrew, it was one of the other species of shrews, and for the life of me I've forgotten which subspecies it was, so I'll have to have a look again at which one occurs. I'm sure Brent will know, and or Jamie. But it's completely slipped my mind. It was really, really sweet. It was a tiny little one. So what they ended up doing is that they ended up rearing it till it was able to fend for itself, and then they released it again. Well, I don't know if it survived or not, but at least it got a second chance at life. Oh, a baby giraffe! Yeah, Brent, you can't find these at the tent. Hello, baby giraffe. Look. It's so cute. He's so little. It's not a tiny baby giraffe, but it's a couple of months old. And I wonder where Mom is. I haven't seen her just yet, but it's also not uncommon to see a little giraffe all on its own. This is a good spot to hide away, as you can see, as it disappears right in front of your eyes, as that if it were to just sit down in this long grass and behind all of these knobbly trees, well, it's completely camouflaged. I think I saw Mom's tail swish. Let me just check again. Let's see if we can get another view. Might have to go back and try reposition. Right, little one. It's nice in there. There's not won't be too much wind either. Oh no, I think it's go back quite a bit. There's Mom. Okay, I found Mom. And we just mustn't hit the marula tree that's behind me. Oh my goodness, am I going to make it? Woo, there we go. There's the giraffe. There she is. It's always just difficult trying to turn off of the road. We've actually seen these giraffe. These two giraffe have had their television debut. They were on the drone for the last TV show that we had. Conrad found them. And then I don't think this is the one that Jamie had the previous show, the second last show. I think that giraffe calf looked to be a little bit younger. But the calf is now hiding away. I don't think you'll get a view of it, unfortunately. But they're lovely. And I actually ended up bumping into these two on foot. And she's very relaxed. I was just doing a quick walk onto quarantine. I was looking for cell phone signal, that's what I was doing. And they were standing there, and were out in the open so they could see me coming. And you know, giraffe have got unbelievable eyesight, and I still to this day don't know anybody that can sneak up to a giraffe without it spotting you. And I was probably about maybe like 30 feet or so away, and she was so chill. She just watched me, which was wonderful. And then I'd thought I'd better not have my phone call there because I didn't want to disturb them. And so I moved away and found some signal elsewhere, and they carried on with their day. But she's very tolerant. and hopefully her youngster will take after her and sort of exhibit the same behavior. But she's lovely. And now you can also see the difference between the male and female ossicones. We saw that bull earlier that had the hyena join it, and how robust his ossicones were. And hers are so much more slender with little black tufts of hair on. And just her entire look is sort of less, I don't know, the male giraffe always look a bit like a brute. You know, always banged up, always scars, and of course all that big calcification that they get over their heads and their faces. The girls are much prettier. And just, I think, suppose a little bit more slight as well. More feminine features. But she looks like she's feeding on one of her favorite trees, using that long tongue. And just nibbling as well on some of those lovely green leaves from the acacia. Hello, girl. I hope when she finishes feeding here, she's not going to disappear into the thicket. That would be very sad. And it's blowing from the southeast again. So she's actually perfect at the moment. She's feeding into the wind, which is very typical. And as most of you viewers will know that have been watching for a very long time, that's what giraffes tend to do. But I know we have a couple of new viewers, so I'll quickly go into the tannins. So a lot of these plants as a chemical defense release something called tannins. And essentially what it does is that it turns the leaves bitter. And of course the animals don't want to feed on bitter tasting leaves. They'd prefer to eat the sweeter leaves. And the giraffe have somehow figured out that if you feed into the wind, and particularly the acacias give off quite a high tannin, the roots will basically tell the rest of the tree that I'm being attacked, release your pheromone, and that pheromone in the form of a tannin is released and then blows onto the next tree. And then it basically signals those trees and says, hey guys, quickly, release your tannins, there's something that's coming to eat you. So by the time the animal goes to feed on that tree, the leaves are already bitter and unfavorable, and they'll move off and go somewhere else. But not the giraffe. The giraffe have figured this out. So that all the pheromones blow downwind onto the next tree and they just keep walking forward. And they miss all of it. So how clever is that? I think that's one of the most fascinating things out here. Oh, goodness. You know, Brent gave us so many gears now about not finding animals, but we've had a baby giraffe, and it seems as though Jamie's got some monkeys. The girls are catching up.
We have been having such a wonderful morning, despite what Brent says. We were, up until the point that our monkeys went up into the top of the tree, and I don't know how we're going to manage to see them. And try this. Come on, and stop. There we go. The roof was getting in our way, but VM and I will not be defeated. Now there we go. A monkey. A monkey's a pretty good animal for Taylor. Edward in New Mexico, you were wondering, because yesterday we were chatting in the tent, but unfortunately it was a bit of an ill-timed question, because we were just about to finish our sunrise safari, as we are about to this morning, but I completely forgot. We're talking about what animal we most relate to or are most similar to, and we were struggling. Taylor was struggling, I was struggling. We said Brent was a wild dog, just in terms of dashing all over the place. This is quite a good animal for Taylor, without any insult being meant. I think monkeys are adorable, and they're highly entertaining to watch. And they've got that sort of energetic and yet mischievous expression or air about them, which I feel kind of exemplifies Taylor. Wow! I don't know if Taylor can jump like that. If she can, I'll be very, very impressed. That was a spectacular leap from one tree to another. So how about a monkey for Taylor? VM says he identifies most with a solitary dispersal male leopard. And he says he will continue to be a solitary dispersal male leopard. What did you say, VM? About 4 or 5? 5. So VM is a solitary dispersal male leopard. Ah, look at these monkeys all over the place. I hope Taylor isn't insulted. I don't mean any insult to her. I just thought, suddenly as I was watching their mischievous faces, I was thinking about when she accidentally knocked Simon off the shelf yesterday. And there we go, there's a monkey with a baby. Stunning. What a nice way to end off our morning. Brent, they've been outside the tent the whole time. What have you been up to all morning? Slacking. Slacking. They've been a bit too far for him to see them. Where's the other ones? Oh, I think they've all sort of dashed into a really awkward position. I thought I saw one in the top of this tree, but I can't see it anymore. On top of the apple leaf there. What about Brian? What did we go for with Brian?
Giraffe.
A giraffe. Just because he's tall. Going with the giraffe. He's quite peaceful as well, Brian. We could maybe go with that. We'll have to think about it some more and then get back to you about that. I'm sorry, I know I promised that we would yesterday. Brian says the big warthog in the hole at Gwen's old den. Oh, Brian. Okay, on that note, time to say goodbye and thank you. So thank you to all for joining us. Thank you, Viam, for your wonderful camera work as always, and thank you to Lou and to Rebecca in Final Control. Most importantly, I suppose I could switch off for this part. Most importantly, a very big thank you to all of you for sending through your questions, comments, and for keeping us company on a cool and drizzly morning. We'll catch you on the sunset safari, where hopefully we might even see a bit of sun. Bye-bye, everybody.